I've been really, honestly, really blessed. I have great people that work with me. I never really say for me, I always say with, because I don't want to keep that kind of weird type of structure per se, but they work with me because we're all creating this great sort of organization. We're trying to work together to create an organization that is a great organization.
Welcome back to another installment of the Next Gen Case Study Series. On today's episode, we have Jereme Dozier, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Axios Security Group, a company known for providing comprehensive physical and digital security solutions. With a focus on creating tailored security strategies, Dozier leads a team of experts in safeguarding assets, personnel, and data through advanced technologies and consulting services, which is why we're excited to have him on the show today. Jereme, welcome to the program.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to discuss and be with this great program. Thank you.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. I'm thrilled to have you on. It's even off camera before we started. It seems that there's a lot of synergies here, so I'm really excited to kind of explore, all things Jereme. But to start, let's kind of kick the ball on a quick couple minutes on your history, who you are, where you came from, and how you landed as the CEO of Axios.
Okay. Well, so Axios was a culmination of things. First, when I first started, getting into the industry, I worked as sort of a low man, working my way up into the security investigative world after my military stint. And after I got out of the military, I was kind of rambling man for a while. People tend to what happens after they get out of the military, because you're all about God and country. And then next thing you know, you have no idea what you're going to do. And so I happened to stumble upon getting into the investigation security industry through a friend of mine. And he brought me on board, and I worked for him for several years. And then at that point, I really thought about, I was like, man, there's a lot of guys that are getting out of special operations. And at that point I said, man, let's put together this sort of team of individuals that, because I was in the 75th Regiment, I was like, let's put this team together of guys that have got this sort of great experience. And, many times over, what happens in the military, we tend to can't really find work, which is crazy because we have millions of dollars of equipment. We're sort of, we're tapped through like tip of the spear and everything we're doing. And then we get out and everybody's like, nobody really knows what to do. So at that point I was like, let's put together all our history, all our understanding, all our experience, and let's put together a great company called Axios. And then that way we can kind of utilize the skills that we learned while we're in both physical security. And then we also have people that have a lineage of cybersecurity expertise, through the federal government, the three-letter agencies, all these types of things that have military background that work for like JSOC and all the, sort of OPSEC parts of the military. And then at that point, we bring them all together and put a big fold together of Axios Security Group. That's why it's called Axios Security Group, because it's basically a group of individuals from all various points in the military special operations that come together and culminate this company. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Jereme, thank you for your ongoing service.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Your dedication to continue to serve our society just generally is I'm very humbled to be able to share this conversation with you right off the bat, just because of that.
Kind.
So
thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm curious how some of that, there's so many things that you touched on to unpack here. So I'm trying to pick the one that I want to start with. You lead a team of around 50 different security consultants. Is the team larger or smaller than that right now?
No, it's about, you're right. It's roughly 50-ish, 50 to 60, depending. But right, 50 to 60 security consultants, all with specific backgrounds that are sort of catered to what we're trying to accomplish, both in the physical sector. Physical security sector is also blended with the cybersecurity sector as well. So yes, that's right, 50 to 60 combined. That is correct.
And a lot of them, I'm assuming, are fellow service members?
Everyone in our company has served at some point, depending on the level of service. So meaning some have retired out, some have worked, did a contract or 8 or 10 years or 20 years, depending on where they went. And then they either got out or served as what they call LEO, which is a law enforcement officer. Some of them have kind of continued service to the community, and then finished that time as a LEO or whatever or whatnot, and then have kind of come on board to this company. And the key for me, especially when I was starting this company, was I don't want veterans or people that have served to ramble like I did trying to find work, which it's crazy. You think guys that work in the special operations field, they would have tons of jobs, opportunities, and it's not. It's just nothing really there, which is it's just nuts to me. So I'm trying to help my fellow members of the service to be able to find work that is rewarding as well as something that they're passionate about, which is security and both physical and cybersecurity.
A lot of what you've shared so far is all kind of attached to this, what I get a sense is a purpose-driven motivator. And
Andrew.
I'm curious to learn how that style of leadership has helped you to collect this group of people who are
Angel.
who are being empowered by you to continue the thing that they were meant to do originally, which is to serve and to protect. And
Right.
you found this niche for them that I think is it's just so fascinating that you were able to curate this kind of ecosystem. And I wonder if
Right.
you could kind of speak to how some of your early work in the military kind of shaped the decisions that you made in terms of trying to build this team of people.
Well, it was, in the military, many times over, you know, it's um, it's a selfless serving job.
Hmm.
And you tend to, especially when you get in and you're getting sort of in the system and you're kind of understanding the dynamic, and then you get into like the battalions or you get into like special operations or whatever. What happens is that you start to create this sort of understanding of team and unity. It's not about individual achievement; it's more about the team and sort of an understanding of how we can work together to create accomplished missions or accomplished goals. And, what happens is when people get out, that's one of the things, and I'll transition to this, is when I was in and I was discussing, we always had these grand ideas. How can we help better make sort of better the military? How can we better this situation? How can we better ourselves, better this operation? How can we better this individual? And we would always have these sort of grand ideas. And then all of a sudden, it's like when you get out, you're like, all right, I have all these grand ideas and nowhere to put them. So then, essentially, I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity. We have all these people that have these had or been in grand ideas, and they work these crazy jobs. I mean, I could go into detail about all the things they did and all the things we did. But the thing is they had all these things that they could accomplish, and then nowhere to put it. And I essentially was sort of like herding cats. You're trying to put all these guys with these great ideas and then trying to culminate it into a single funnel system, which is a challenge. So you're right. As a leader, it's setting the goal and setting the expectation and creating that goal for them to sort of find one, a home, but two, create opportunities for themselves to be able to provide for their families, which is very important for me. And then the other thing is also creating something that they love. Many times over and with this is what happens is a lot of time military people, they get out and they feel like, especially in the special operations world, they get out and they tend to go do contracts, TC or triple canopy or someplace else where they go and they go downrange back again. And it gets tiring and it's old because they don't want to, they know they need to provide for their families, but at the same point, they feel comfortable in this element because this is the element they've spent 10, 20 years in, 30 years or however. And so many times over, I remember some of my brothers, they would talk to me and be like, man, I love this because now I can do this and I still get to go home and be with the family or see my kids versus, being gone 6 months to 8 months to a year. And then all of a sudden it's like, that gap. And I understand that gap. So now they can still kind of have the same kind of fun, the same kind of craziness that we did when we were in, but now they can actually, clock out and go home and see their kids, and be able to be a part of their families. And so that's another big component for me as well.
Yeah, it's like leveraging their existing skills and tool sets from the experience and the time that they've had in service, and then taking that and turning it into more value.
Mhm.
It's there's such a um, beautiful symmetry to that I think needs to be acknowledged, especially in a day and age now where there's just so much vulnerability. There's a lot of chaos and disorder, and
Oh yeah, for sure.
political parties seemingly at war and things like that. And so it must be difficult, Jeremy, to manage all of this, kind of carryings on. I wonder if you could share maybe some of your day-to-day stuff. Like, what does it look like to be the CEO of Axios?
Well, that's an interesting question because someone asked me that last week. They asked me, what do I do day to day? And most of it is mitigating a lot of things. First, I was laughing because someone asked me, how many hours you work because you seem like you never go to bed.
Yeah.
And I tell them to say, yeah, it is not a 9 to 5. It's more like a 5 to 9. I mean, literally, you're 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. I never really get to sleep in. It's not because I don't want to. I love this job. I love what I'm doing, and it's so much fun. And it's fun to be able to create opportunities. But my day to day is essentially, I look and see what operations we have going on. I check in to see what the teams have been doing. We have the privatized chats, that secure chats that we have that we're going through, like a GSOC essentially, which is a global security operations center. But basically, you have this, like we have a GSOC in retrospect, and then we're going through all of these things and we're checking the chats and checking what's happening and who's doing what. And then, it's funny because sometimes when I'm in the chats, it's like, it's 2 or 3 a.m. where I am, but it's, wherever. And they're like, this guy never sleeps. And I'll be chiming in. And it's not because I don't sleep. It's because I care about the teams and I care about what's going on with them. I want to make sure everybody's good. And then I'll go to sleep at that point. But yeah, my day is essentially mitigating administrative work, checking on to make sure like all the functions of the business is sound financially. Everybody has what they need. The teams have what they need. There's no want or problems. And then of course, putting out fires all day. I mean, that's the job of CEOs. Essentially, you're just carrying a fire extinguisher and you're putting out fires most of the day. And then trying to redirect that fire into where it's positive for the outcome of the business. And then of course, handling your teams. And I've been honestly, really blessed. I have great people that work with me. I never really say for me, I always say with, because I don't want to keep that kind of weird type of structure per se, but they work with me because we're all creating this great sort of organization. We're trying to work together to create an organization that is a great organization. But yeah, it's really, that's the functions of a CEO is, and sometimes I get dirty. I have been in situations where, teams, somebody had a situation where I had to, strap on the old gear and get out there and get dirty and they're shocked by it. They're like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? It's the CEO of the company. But yeah, man, I'm a blue collar guy, man. I am, I may be in a white collar position, but I'm gonna roll up your sleeves, get dirty with you. Just as long as my knees and my hip will allow me, I'm definitely out there with you, man. No worries.
Yeah, sometimes we just have to prove to ourselves that we can still do it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It feels good, man. I come back sore, 5 or 6 pills of Motrin later and a couple of bottles of water. I'm like a champion, man. A good night's sleep and I'm there. But yeah, man, I'll grind it out with the team and I love it. It's, this is something that has been it's just a deep passion of mine. And it's just fun, and that's the thing. I want to create like an environment of it and not just say we're fun all the time because it's a very serious situation, especially when it comes to security. And when we're I call it the zone. My wife tends to call it when I get in the zone.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, when you get in the zone, that's what happens. I mean, you just generally, you just kind of get in that sort of funnel of just horse blinder focus, and then when it's done, you're like a sense of relief and they're like, oh my God, thank God. it's
Yeah.
done. And then you can smile and enjoy yourself. So
You take a step back from the work and admire the
yeah.
accomplishment, I think, at the
Yeah.
end of
And
it all.
I love seeing my team is successful. And I love the fact that we're taking care of them And it gives me a sense of pride that I'm able to help people better their lives financially, create job opportunities of success for them. And then also it's a point of pride for me that, I'm the leader of them. And it's nuts, but I've enjoyed every minute of
it. One of the things that is kind of more, I guess, more or less the backbone or the cornerstone of all of the work and effort is you have to find somebody to serve and figure out how to convince them that you can do that,
it.
then
Yeah.
bring them into your company and then actually serve them. And I'm obviously making reference to kind of the customer acquisition process. Now I know that
Yes.
maybe that's not specifically a hat that you wear, and there are parts of your team, there are people on your team that whose job it is to manage that on your behalf. Um, how do you navigate that in terms of providing them with the right tools and resources to make good decisions? And then, how do you stay in touch with them to make sure that they are, in fact, using those tools and resources effectively and efficiently?
All right. Great question. So, when I started this company, I knew that I had to create a platform. I am a people person. I use the term, it's kind of funny because, people say, it's shaking hands and kissing babies, but I always say shaking babies, kissing hands is kind of a joke, kind of lighten the mood. And people always like, they never catch it, they never catch that. Shaking babies, kissing hands. They're like, yeah, that's great. I'm like, yeah, I love it. I love shaking babies, kissing hands. But either way, the point is that, I enjoy that. And, I try to create a fundamental foundation, especially when it comes to sales. There's a structure. Like I created a sales script and I ensured that everybody that's dealing with the sales, I gave them, things that we can and cannot do. I gave them like explanations of services, explanations, and I trained them. I drilled them, just like in the military. I drilled them. I practiced with them. I made sure that they understand my expectation of sales, my expectation of understanding as far as when you're dealing with clients, because, people come to us for help. It could be something that seems very, odd to somebody else, but you have to sense of empathy. I teach them the three F's, which is feel, felt, found. Feel, felt, found is a very interesting sort of, I don't say a sales tactic, but it's a tactic that I tell people that you have to understand what they're feeling at the moment, and that you felt that before, and then you found that this is the solution through that problem. And in making sure people understand that there's a connection, that you're not alone. And in many times over, you'll find that, especially when it comes to corporate level security, as well as, individual security or individual investigations or corporate investigation, you'll find that many times over that people just want to have an ear and listen. And this is how I train my people, because I feel like we're security professionals / therapists. I mean, that's literally, I'm not licensed by any means,
Right.
but we're essentially like a psychiatrist. We're a therapist for these individuals that are looking for help, to have somebody to hear what they're having to say, then plan it out, and then achieve that goal to allow them to understand that, look, we care about what's going on with you. We want you to have a good outcome. And these are the suggestions we have, and we've heard everything you said, and let's put a platform together. Let's put a plan together. Let's get an operations plan together. And let's just figure out how we can do that to accommodate your goals. And that's how I've trained my team. And then, we have a COO, Sam Robbins, great guy. He's the chief operating officer. He's also very astute. He is a special operations veteran, and he's a great guy. And he also controls a lot of that narrative and controls the operations side of what's happening and the connectivity. And so the challenge for a CEO is, where do I not overstep my bounds? Where do I allow my team to be a team and allow them to work without micromanaging? There's management and then there's micromanagement.
Right.
It's hard for me not to want to go, like, hey, I see you're doing something wrong, but I got to allow the leaders to do that. And then of course, then following up with them, and it's all this sort of follow up, the 3 follow-up rules. So that's what I utilize. So you're just making sure that you're always continuously touching, follow up clients, following up with your teams, follow up with your people, follow up. The 3 F's is what I deal with. But that's generally how I deal with clients. And that way, just again, as I go back, it's just making them feel like that they are a very important part of our culture, a part of our company, a part of, they are integral because I can't function without their money, and I can't function without their client, them coming in and trusting us with their money. I can't do that. So they're a very important part of the process. So
Right.
that's pretty much how I train my staff and my team.
The thing that I picked up on, Jeremy, was the purpose-based and goals-oriented management style as opposed to a task-oriented management style, which is an evolution that I have kind of observed happening over the last maybe 10 years. And I think Simon Sinek actually speaks on this a lot in how
Oh
uh,
yeah.
the leadership gives the people that they're serving, which is the employees, the mission. This is the mission. We have to achieve this outcome, and we're going to get there together, right? And so I wonder, is that a part of what
Yeah.
you
So
do?
great book, Leaders Eat Last. I love that book. I've read it
Yes. Yeah.
times. I tell everybody to read it. Leaders Eat Last, great book by Simon Sinek. And that's funny because, in the military, we would, it's very truthful to that point. I used to have a first sergeant. He was adamant about making sure all the privates, everybody in order. And then the NCOs would just generally get scraps. We would get the back end of the food. But it was important to kind of go with what you're saying. Simon Sinek touched up on it, but it's basically putting the team first. And then, of course, touching base on what you're saying about giving them sort of focus and positive driven focus. It's doing that through means of structure, means of positive reinforcement, means of, hey, this is how I like this to be. And I would like your feedback, because in the units, that's how it was. We would work together as creating a unit, understanding what we're trying to accomplish, depending on the mission. But as a unit, we would work together to try to figure out how to accomplish that. So through
Mm.
those facets and through that sort of understanding, I'll try to create a culture of that where, here's what I want, but, let's see how we can work together to try to achieve that goal. And it sort of falls in line with Simon Sinek's, which are your analogy that you broke just a moment ago.
Right. And because it's so intangible in terms of like, okay, if I had a list of tasks, right, I can see that you have completed sweeping the floor. I can see that you've completed making the bed. I can see that you've completed,
No.
right? We can go down a checklist and we can tick off boxes. But with goal-oriented management styles, or this way that you empower somebody to have the tools and resources to do what needs to be done, and then make the decisions along the way that need to be made in order to achieve an outcome that we all collectively look at as the positive outcome that we're aiming for. So I
That's
wonder how you approach measuring the success of that, both for the company, but then also for the customers that you're serving.
well, for the company as well. I mean, again, we're a revenue based company, so success is revenue based as far as financials. When you look at the financials and you look at the growth that we've had over the years, I mean, it's astronomical. So that means that we're doing something right. And then you got to when you drill down deeper into what you're talking about, empowering. I've trained people on business and business models, and I've always said, you're never going to find somebody that's going to love your business like you do. Never. Because
Right.
nobody's going to love your kids as much as you do. Nobody's going to love your business as much as you do. But if you can find somebody that's 75, 80% in, that's the keeper. That's the person, male, female, doesn't matter. That's the person that you want to be there, because you want to keep those people on, because they are going to grow with you. They're going to work that extra mile. They're going to do those things. And then how you do that is by rewarding them, either albeit through what we call POB, which is the pat on the back, or the sort of great job, or the financial aspect of rewarding them financially. And those are the sort of integral parts of that. And so going through what you're saying is, to create these teams is, first, you have to create a team with the understanding of what your goal is. And that takes time. And that's not something that's going to happen right away. You're going to have people that you think are great. And I call it 90 days of thunder, is what I call it, 90 days of thunder. They work 90 days, they're just grilling out there and wonderful. And then all of a sudden, after 90 days, they're like, dude, where did this guy go? It's off the total map. I can't even contact him. It's like, after for some reason, 120 days is the cutoff. And it's like, and then you get people that are just like, loving this, and they're out, and doesn't matter. They're all 100% in. and after 90 days, are still there with you. I have people that work with me from been working with us since like day one,
Mm.
and we're 5 years in, and it's wonderful. And I'm always willing to bring in new talent, but again, I have to look and see if their character it matches the character of the company. And that's, it's funny because Chick-fil-A talks about that. Chick-fil-A has this principle where, creating this concept of people empowering themselves and to others through service, and then working together to create that sort of great service sort of connection with the client. And that's ultimately what I've tried to do, is sort of create that service understanding through teamwork, unity, and then passing that same happiness and structure and love of what we're doing to the client. And then they feel like they've just got a great service given to them. So then, of course, that ends up in our bottom line, which is most important too as well.
It's funny you mentioned Chick-fil-A because I was just recently in Florida over Christmas, and we love to stop at the Chick-fil-A whenever we get a chance. They're one of the
Yeah,
few fast food restaurants that offer like really good gluten-free options. I'm
yeah, for sure.
a gluten-free guy, and
Yeah, me too. It's
I've
okay. I
never
get it.
not been blown away by the level of service that I am receiving at a
Yeah,
fast food joint.
yeah,
Like,
it's
I don't
crazy.
know about you, but I go to Tim Hortons or a coffee place in the morning to get my coffee, and it's
Yeah,
if you go to Starbucks, they read you a script,
yeah, that's
right? That
right.
they're all trained
Yeah,
on, and it's very disingenuous and inauthentic, and it
yes,
feels gross.
yeah,
If I go to another place, I'm hard pressed to even get them to acknowledge that I'm there,
yeah,
aside from
right.
punching in the numbers. So
Yeah,
to
right.
see somebody bending over backwards in a
Yeah,
fast food industry, coming over and offering you extra sauces and
yeah, yeah.
and
Oh
taking your
yeah,
garbage and all this,
oh
so
yeah,
I'm very much a subscriber to this. Disney calls them magic moments,
yeah.
where
Magic moments, right?
where
Uh-huh.
yeah, where your employees go above and beyond to serve, and it's so intrinsically valuable for the person who is providing that magical moment because they feel
Mhm.
warm in their heart that they've done something good. The
Correct.
recipient of that, the client, is obviously they had a remarkable experience or an experience worth remarking on, and they
Right,
will go
right.
and continue to talk about that.
That's
And
right.
so to hear that this is something that is being applied in the work that you're doing with the kinds of people that you're doing it, even though it's a very serious kind of business, it's very refreshing to know that something like this exists, and people are really starting to see the benefit of that, and knowing that you continue to contribute to that, to the, I guess, to the fabric of the way that we all interact is super valuable, Jeremy. I've given you a lot of flowers on this, and I hate to I hate to be
No,
the
it's
guy
okay.
that does that, but there's
No, I love it. Thank you. I
so much
appreciate it.
value in the work that you're doing, and I think that
I'm
that's
humbled.
very important to acknowledge.
I
Um,
appreciate it. I'm
on,
humbled.
on that note, Jeremy, what's on the horizon? What are you guys aiming at? What's in store for the future of the business and your team?
Well, so I mean, as like you said, just real quick, I got a great team. I get great partners. I mean, the biggest thing is I have great partners. My partner Russell and Sam. They're having people like that in my life is like a brotherhood, and that makes it so much easier because then there's a trust level that I have with people that genuinely care about your well being. They care about your success, and that just means a vast difference to me. So I can focus on what is needed to focus on, not worrying about if I'm being undercut. You see, and that's
Mm.
the real challenge. So, Axios Security Group is we're looking to do a lot of things. First off, we're going to create some avenues. We were talking about, I know the topic originally was AI and its integrations, but we're going to be getting into more at-home vulnerability testings, pen tests at home. So a lot of times people feel like, when penetration testing and pen testings, they tend to be more corporate level, and people are now starting to succumb to and going through a lot of ransomware hacking. Just, this sort of crazy how AI has sort of created the social engineering type of thing where, people creating false, almost so realistic profiles and things of that nature. And then they get access into your computer or something to that effect. So we're expanding into a more sort of amenable way for the everyday person to, rather than paying $5,000 to $10,000, keeping it at a lower cost for people to do vulnerability testing that will allow them to have the ability to check their computers, check their systems. It's like a low level pen test. And then if they want to pen test, of course, we can do that. But that's one of the things in the horizons on the cybersecurity side. We're in actually final developments of that. And that does incorporate some of the AI technology that you have. Although the thing with the AI that's very important is that we are managing that AI. We're not just allowing it to flow freely and just sort of, because you always, AI is such a great aspect of sort of programming, and it's a wonderment. But at the same point, you have to maintain control of it. You just can't let it run freely. So this is why it's important we have people who great skills. I mentioned our cybersecurity team that are also managing that AI, making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do, and manually adjusting, manually looking at it. So that's one of the aspects. And as far as the physical security side, as far as Axios Security Group, we're looking at conducting training. As far as what we call ISTs. Now, ISTs is called International Security Training. This is where we go to other countries and we teach all the special operations taskings that we learned while we're in, but we're teaching them to other countries, just like what they would do in special operations. That's what we did. At least that's what the group did. The special forces guys would go to another country, teach them how to fire weapons, to train close quarters combat. But now we're doing it on the private side. So that's one of the goals, is to privatize that, and we go and teach other countries the special forces skills and special operations skills that they have for their police tactics and things of that nature to help enhance their police. And then also another last bit is, a lot of times, sadly so, there's a lot of companies using cutting out employees, and some employees tend to get a little bit angry. And so they tend to go in there, and I hate to say the word postal, but that's what their term is. They go a little postal and they go in there and start shooting up places. So we're focusing now, integrating that training to help train and protect companies to better prepare themselves for potential engagement of that nature. That's the physical security side. And then also offer protections, because we're licensed and being able to do that, to provide that security just in case that issue comes around and that they need that protection just for that little bit of time, in order to allow that transition for the let go employees to sort of settle down and calm down and move on. So those are the three things that we're focused on right now.
Big ambitions, a lot of very clear goals, and obvious problems that need solutions, so that the room for growth there is tremendous, provided that you have a good team and
Yeah, I do.
clear
Blessed,
path
yes.
from the leadership. And I think you got both
Yeah.
of those things locked down, Jeremy.
Yes, I'm really glad I do. It takes, believe me, I'm truly happy about that. But thank you.
Yeah. In closing, to kind of wrap up the conversation, Jeremy, if you could, I wonder if there's somebody out there who's kind of in a similar role as you, who's kind of facing similar challenges. Is there a single piece of advice that you might be able to offer them to kind of help them keep going and to overcome those challenges?
Yes, great question. I think a lot of times as CEOs, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and it's rightfully so. We're the head of everything, and a lot of times it's not going to work the way you want it. I think understanding that from the jump, there's a saying that say, make a plan, God laughs. That's sort of the running, it's the truth. And you have to have that mindset. You have to have understanding that your plan is not necessarily going to be the end result. Like, you may started at A, but then you ended up in Z, and you didn't even know how you got to Z, but who cares? You got to Z. The point is that you have to be understanding of that flexibility, and you have to have continue on. I say that two things for CEOs to have is perseverance and passion. And I say this very specifically because passion gets you through a lot of that times when you want to quit, but the perseverance pushes you through beyond. And having passion and perseverance is what really is essential to what you're doing, because a lot of times some companies are small businesses, some are mid-range, some are large corporations. A lot of small businesses, they fail within the first 6 months to a year because the passion's there, but not the perseverance, or they don't have a solid business plan and they haven't stuck with that, and things may not be going their way, but then they don't know how to adjust. And like I said, sometimes you make the plan God last. They have to learn to adjust. So understanding that not everything's going to go your way, not everything's going to run perfectly, but continuously just pounding away. And then when you realize that maybe that's not the direction you need to go, learning how to adjust to make it a better direction, and listening to people that you have in your team that are trying to tell you that, and have that humility to understand that you don't know everything, then you have to rely on your team to be able to explain that to you. Sometimes, a lot of times, CEOs think, okay, well, I'm the top dog, so I don't listen to anybody. That is going to room for failure. You have to listen to your teams, because sometimes understanding what's going on the ground level is essential. It's critical, mission critical to a successful business model.
I picked up on so much there, Jereme. I got ambition, I got persistence, I got resourcefulness, and then I think the glue that pulls all of them together is the discipline. I remember there's a saying that somebody said I can't even remember who to give credit for this one for, but they said, "You'll never beat me because I can convince myself to do things I don't want to do, and you can't." There's something there in our ability to push us through to do things. I love Jocko Willing talks about this. It doesn't matter if you're mad, do it mad. It doesn't matter if you're sad, do it sad. It doesn't matter if it's rainy out, do it while it's raining. All of these external factors are just easy ways for you to sell yourself on giving up. And if you can just sell yourself on pushing through it, what lies beyond that is the immeasurable treasures that you're aiming at. And so I love that is the foundation of the work that you're doing, and it's admirable that you're doing this. It's refreshing to know that there is leaders out there like yourself, leading the charge for this type of work. And so I'm very grateful. You've been so generous with your time and your wisdom, Jereme. So thank you for that. On that note, if somebody else wanted to reach out to you, perhaps to pick your brain further or work with you, what's the best way for someone to do that?
Yeah, they can reach us out. If someone wants to, they can go to client services at axiossecuritygroup.com. They can just send an email. I'm always checking emails. People think that, they write in, nobody's ever going to respond, or especially me or whatever, but that's not true. I like to see when clients write in. I like to know what's going on. I may not respond. I allow the team to respond sometimes, but when I still know what's going on, I still have my finger on the pulse. So if they write in and they have questions, and generally I'll look at those questions, and of course I'll respond out of respect. The one thing Sam and I were talking about is what we hate and just despise. I don't say hate, despise is when we take time out to respond or to do something or whatever, and then we don't get a response in return. It just seems it's not respectful, and that's not the way I am. Someone writes in, I generally always respond as best as I can, and at least in a timely manner. It may not be the same day, but sometime within a few days, I may have time to respond, but I will respond. I just feel like, especially if someone's asking a question and trying to help them learn how to be a better business person or a better employee or whatever it is, I think it's important that you respond. So yes.
Even if it's at 2 a.m. in the group chat.
Even if it's 2 a.m., man, they're like, this guy never sleeps. The boss is always watching, guys. The boss is always watching. Yeah, that's the way I work. But yeah, that's funny. 2 a.m. That's right.
Jereme, it's been a pleasure sharing this conversation with you. Thank you so much.
It's been fun. Thank you for taking time out to share with me on this, man. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. The pleasure has been all mine. In closing, we're going to make sure we link to all of Jereme's stuff in the show notes here so that you can find him easily and get in touch with him. And if you did want to reach out to us and my team for any reason, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode, and I will see you in the next.